There is a specific kind of silence in a neonatal intensive care unit. It is not peaceful. It is heavy. It is filled with the rhythmic beeping of monitors, the hiss of oxygen, and the terrified breathing of parents praying behind glass. I sat there, staring at my daughter. 2 pounds. 4 ounces. Her chest rose and fell so faintly I had to hold my own breath just to make sure she was still fighting. My phone was in my hand. I typed out the message to the family group chat. Critical condition. Please pray. I hit send and watched the screen, waiting for the flood of support. The "we are coming." The "we love you." The "hold on." Instead, I got a photo. My Aunt Cynthia in Cabo San Lucas, raising a margarita to a sunset. The caption read, "Don't kill the vibe. Natalie, stop being dramatic." 3 seconds later, my brother Brandon hearted the message. That was the moment the daughter died. And the CEO was born. Stop scrolling for a second. Drop a comment and tell me, if your family told you to stop being dramatic while your child was fighting for their life, would you ever speak to them again? I want to know where you draw the line. I did not cry. Tears are a biological response to pain. And what I felt was not pain. It was clarity. Cold. Absolute clarity. I put the phone in my pocket, walked out of the NICU, and took the elevator down to the hospital cafeteria. It was 2 a.m. The fluorescent lights hummed with that specific, headache-inducing frequency you only find in places where people are waiting for bad news. I bought a black coffee, sat at a corner table, and opened my laptop. For 10 years, I had been the family safety net. I was the one who fixed things. I was the one who smoothed over the cracks. But looking at that photo of Aunt Cynthia's margarita, I realized I had not been a sister or a niece. I had been a venture capitalist, pouring money into a failing startup. And tonight, I was liquidating the assets. I opened a blank Excel spreadsheet. I did not need to look up the numbers. They were burned into my bank statements and my memory. I started typing. Row 1, Tiffany. My cousin. The eternal victim of bad roommates and worse boyfriends. I listed every month of rent I had covered for her transitional period in the luxury apartment downtown. 3 years of direct deposits. Total $48,000. Row 2, Brandon. My brother. The entrepreneur who never quite launched. I typed in the bail money, from 2018. The legal fees for the assault charge he swore was self-defense. The seed capital for the crypto scheme that evaporated in a week. I added the private school tuition for his son, which I paid directly because Brandon forgot the deadlines. Total $82,000. Row 3, Aunt Cynthia. The matriarch. The woman who just told me to stop being dramatic. I listed the short-term loans to cover her credit card minimums so Grandpa Samuel would not find out she was shopping while he was in assisted living. I listed the flights. The emergency car repairs. The spa weekends she claimed were for her mental health. Total $75,000. I formatted the columns. I bolded the totals. I named the file Family Subsidy Final.xlsx. My hands hovered over the keyboard. A part of me, the part that had been trained since childhood to keep the peace, screamed at me to stop. It told me that families forgive, that families support each other no matter what. But then I looked up at the clock. My daughter was upstairs fighting to breathe. And these people were drinking tequila. The peace was already broken. I was just acknowledging the wreckage. I opened the Family Forever group chat. The photo of the margarita was still the last message, sitting there like an insult. I did not write a paragraph. I did not ask for an apology. I simply dragged the spreadsheet into the chat window and waited for the blue progress bar to finish uploading. When it hit 100%, I typed one sentence. The nanny contract expires today. Good luck. I did not wait for the read receipts. I did not wait for the 3 dots to appear, signaling the inevitable explosion of gaslighting and panic. I clicked the menu button. Leave group. Then, I went to my contacts. Select all. Block. The silence that followed was not lonely. It was the most expensive thing I had ever bought. And it was worth every penny. I closed my laptop, took a sip of the cold coffee, and went back upstairs to my daughter. I was done being a daughter to them. I was a mother now. I sat in the dim light of the NICU, watching the numbers on the monitor fluctuate. Heart rate, oxygen saturation, numbers that dictated whether my world would keep spinning or grind to a devastating halt. It was quiet here, a stark contrast to the noise inside my head. Why had I done it? Why had I let it go on for so long? I wasn't weak. I knew that. I ran a company. I negotiated contracts worth millions. I fired people who underperformed. But with my family? I was 12 years old again. I remembered my 12th birthday. It was a Tuesday. My parents had forgotten, which was not unusual. But Aunt Cynthia had come over. She did not bring a gift. She brought a crisis. She was crying in the kitchen, telling my mom she could not afford Brandon's soccer camp fees. Brandon was the star athlete, the golden boy, the one with potential. I was just Natalie, the girl who got good grades and did not cause trouble. I had $70 saved up from babysitting. It was in a little tin box under my bed. I remembered walking into the kitchen, holding out the crumpled bills. "Here," I said, "for Brandon." Aunt Cynthia did not say thank you. She stopped crying, took the money, and smiled at my mother. "See," she said, "Natalie understands. She knows how to be useful." Useful. That word dug into my ribs like a hook. It was not kind. It was not generous. It was useful. And in that moment, my 12-year-old brain made a connection that would cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next 20 years. I learned that love was a transaction. If I paid, they smiled. If I fixed their problems, I mattered. If I was useful, I was safe. It is called grooming. It does not always look like something from a crime documentary. Sometimes it looks like a family dinner where you are only praised for picking up the check. Sometimes it looks like your mother sighing and saying, "I don't know what we'd do without you." Only after you have solved a crisis they created. They trained me to equate my self-worth with my utility. They built a machine where I was the engine, and they were the passengers. And they convinced me that driving the car was a privilege, not a burden. I looked at my daughter. She was so small. Her hand was the size of my thumb. She did not care if I was useful. She did not care about my bank account or my ability to solve problems. She just needed me to be there. She needed me to be her mother. For the first time in my life, I realized the transaction was fraudulent. I had been paying for love that was never going to be delivered. I had been buying a seat at a table where I was always going to be the servant, never the guest. The anger that rose up in me then was not hot or explosive. It was cold. It was the kind of anger that builds empires and burns down cities. I looked at the blocked contacts on my phone. They were not just family. They were a bad investment. And I was finally cutting my losses. The silence in the room felt different now. It was not heavy. It was expectant. I leaned forward and whispered to the glass box, "I'm not going to be useful anymore. Baby girl. I'm just going to be yours." The silence lasted exactly 72 hours. 3 days of peace where the only sounds were the hum of the NICU equipment and the soft murmur of nurses. I had started to let my guard down. I had started to believe that maybe, just maybe, my exit had been clean. Then my phone lit up. Unknown caller. I usually let those go to voicemail, assuming it was a telemarketer or a scammer. But a feeling settled in my gut, heavy and cold like a stone. I swiped answer. He is dying. Natalie, Dad is dying. It was Brandon. His voice was ragged, pitched high with a hysteria I had never heard from him before. My heart stopped. The world narrowed down to the linoleum tiles under my feet. Grandpa Samuel. The only one who had ever slipped me a $20 bill without a lecture. The only one who looked at me with something resembling pride. What I choked out? What happened? His heart. It could not take it. He collapsed. They are saying it is bad. Nat. You have to get here. You have to fix this. The old programming kicked in instantly. The fixer override. My hands started shaking. Not with anger this time, but with terror. I was already mentally calculating flight times, wondering if I could leave Riley for 12 hours, wondering if I could make it back in time to say goodbye. Where is he? I asked. Already moving toward the elevators. Which hospital did they take him to? Cedars Mercy. I am at the 4th precinct. Brandon shouted. They won't let me leave until you get here with the insurance card. I stopped. My hand hovered over the down button. The precinct, I repeated, my voice dropping an octave. Brandon. Why are you at a police station if Grandpa is dying in a hospital? There was a pause on the other end. A hesitation that told me everything I needed to know. The panic in his voice shifted gears. It was not grief anymore. It was desperation. He had a panic attack. Okay. He saw the car and he couldn't breathe. The paramedics took him. But the cops are holding me. They are talking about a DUI. Natalie. They are saying I stole the vehicle. The vehicle, I said flatly. The Escalade. I just needed to borrow it. Just for the weekend. To impress some investors. I was going to bring it back. The Escalade. My company car. The one registered to N.R. Consulting LLC. The one I paid $1,200 a month to lease so I could drive clients around safely. He had taken it. He had stolen it. You took my car, I whispered. I didn't take it, I borrowed it. And then this idiot ran a red light and look. The car is totaled. Nat. It is gone. Wrapped around a light pole. You were drunk. I had 2 beers. That is not the point. The point is, Dad is in the hospital because of the stress you caused by blocking us. And now I am going to jail, unless you fix this. Fix what? Brandon. Tell them I have permission. He hissed. Tell them I am an employee. Tell them I am an authorized driver on the commercial policy. If you don't, the insurance won't cover the wreck. I will be on the hook for $80,000. Nat. I will go to prison for grand theft auto. You have to tell them. He was not calling because our grandfather was dying. He was calling because he needed me to commit insurance fraud. He needed me to perjure myself, risk my company, and lie to the police to save him from the consequences of his own felony. You want me to lie to the police? I said. While my daughter is in an incubator? Don't you dare bring her into this. He snapped. This is about family. Dad is lying in a hospital bed right now because of your car. The least you can do is make sure his son doesn't go to jail. I looked out the window at the parking lot below. I saw the ambulances waiting in the bay. I thought about Grandpa Samuel, terrified and gasping for air because his grandson was a thief. And then I thought about Riley. You are right, I said. This is about family. I hung up the phone. I did not call him back. I did not hesitate. I did not wring my hands or pace the hallway wondering if I was being too harsh. I opened my contacts and found the number for the precinct's front desk. 4th Precinct. A gruff voice answered. This is Natalie Reynolds, I said. My voice did not shake. It sounded like it did in boardrooms flat. Projected. And final. You have my brother, Brandon Reynolds, in custody regarding a collision involving a black Cadillac Escalade. That vehicle is registered to my company. N.R. Consulting. Hold on, the officer said. There was a shuffle of papers. Yeah. We have him. He is claiming he is an employee and had authorization to drive the vehicle. We are waiting on verification. He is not an employee, I said. He is not an authorized driver. He took the keys from my home without my knowledge or consent. I would like to report the vehicle as stolen. There was a pause on the line. In the background, I could hear the hum of the station. Ma'am. If you report it stolen, that upgrades his charges. He is looking at grand theft auto on top of the DUI. Are you sure you want to do that? I am filing a police report for the theft of company property valued at $84,000. I said. Do what you need to do. Okay. Hold on. Let me. Wait. I said. Put him on. Ma'am. Put him on the phone. I want him to hear it. There was a clunk as the receiver was moved. A moment later, Brandon's voice came through. Breathless and hopeful. Nat. You fixed it. Are they letting me go? Brandon. I said. I just spoke to the sergeant. I confirmed that the vehicle was stolen. What? The hope shattered instantly. No. No. Nat. Don't joke. Tell them I work for you. You don't work for me. You stole a commercial vehicle and destroyed it. The insurance company will be denying the claim based on unauthorized use, which means you are personally liable for the replacement cost. And the state is charging you with grand theft. You can't, he screamed. The sound distorted the speaker. I am your brother. You can't put me in prison. Dad will kill you, Natalie. Goodbye, Brandon. I hung up. I did not feel guilty. I felt like a surgeon who had just successfully amputated a gangrenous limb. It was bloody. Yes. But the infection was gone. I wasn't finished. Adrenaline still burned as I scrolled to row 1 Tiffany. I called her property manager and identified myself as the lease guarantor. I withdrew immediately and canceled the automatic rent payments. Without a guarantor, they would issue a pay or quit notice within 3 days. Send it, I said. The call ended. In 10 minutes. I dismantled the safety nets I'd built for them over a decade. I didn't feel like family anymore. I felt like a CEO finally firing employees who'd been stealing from the company. 3 quiet weeks followed. Riley gained weight. I slept. My family stayed silent. I believed it was over. It wasn't. One Tuesday morning, a man in a cheap suit handed me a manila envelope. You've been served. Inside was an emergency ex parte petition for temporary conservatorship. Cynthia was accusing me of elder abuse, claiming I manipulated Grandpa and stole millions. The court froze every account tied to him and the LLC within minutes. They weren't suing for money. They were suing for control. If they won, Cynthia would control Grandpa's health, finances, dissolve the LLC, and take the estate. I called my lawyer. Yes, they can do this, she said. But we go to court Friday. I prepared nonstop. Friday morning. My family sat across the aisle, united in greed. Cynthia's lawyer painted me as a predator, exploiting a confused old man. He presented affidavits and bank transfers. Then my lawyer stood. Grandpa was medically competent, confirmed by a neurologist 2 days earlier. The transfers weren't theft. They were rent and capital contributions. The estate didn't belong to Grandpa anymore. She submitted a ladybird deed, executed 10 years earlier, transferring the property to the LLC, with me as manager. Then she cited the hostile action clause. Anyone who sued to remove the manager forfeited their rights and faced eviction. By filing the petition, Cynthia and Brandon had legally evicted themselves. The judge denied the conservatorship, lifted the freezes, and ordered them to pay my legal fees. 30 days later, the sheriff enforced the eviction. I watched from down the street, not in triumph, but closure. Cynthia's power vanished the moment the money stopped. We sold the estate. Grandpa moved into a beautiful assisted living facility. He was calmer, healthier. You cleaned the house, he told me. I set up an ironclad trust for Riley. No family member will ever touch it. Unknown numbers still call. I never answer. Some say cutting off family is wrong. I learned that family is who protects you. I didn't lose a family. I removed a tumor. This morning, I woke up to silence and sunlight and the sound of my daughter breathing. It's the most expensive piece I've ever bought, and I'd buy it again. If you're the family bank, close the account. The cost of keeping it open is your life.